Hello, welcome back again for the final recording within the Shared Decision-Making training. This is Module 4 titled Putting Shared Decision-Making into Practice. The educational content in this online video module was adapted with permission from the Agency of Healthcare Research and Quality's Share Approach training curriculum. The purpose of this module is to introduce key activities for you to consider while you're incorporating shared decision-making into your practice or at your organization. We'll also explore the important role leadership buy-in has. So let's take a look at the key activities you are going to be addressing as you begin your process. Implementing SDM and the use of PCOR and other decision support resources into your practice will require leadership buy-in and a coordinated plan to make it work. During this recording, we are going to go over each of the items listed on your screen. Implementing SDM requires a coordinated plan, therefore, please feel free to pause and rewind this recording at any time to take notes. Let's begin with number 1, getting leadership buy-in. As you might expect, obtaining leadership commitment is necessary because SDM may require changes in staff assignments, the allocation of resources, and in workflows that affect everyone. These changes need to be authorized by your organization's leaders. AHRQ has developed a tool titled Achieving Patient-Centered Care with Shared Decision-Making, a brief for administrators and practice leaders seen here. The brief is meant to serve as a resource so that you can share with your senior leadership to help them understand the benefits of implementing SDM and the use of PCOR resources into practice. You may find this resource by visiting AHRQ's SDM website, then Share Approach Tools, and then click on the title of this tool. Remember, another important aspect of getting leadership buy-in and sustaining interest throughout your organization in SDM is finding a champion on staff, the person who is going to keep pushing everyone forward, including administrators. Could that person be you? Another topic you can discuss with your leadership team is how the implementation of SDM could affect the organization in a positive way, reflective of the triple aim, or increased patient satisfaction, improved quality, and reduction of cost. In terms of patient satisfaction, SDM improves the patient's experience of care. They improve their knowledge and have more accurate expectations of possible benefits and harms, reducing decisional conflict. They reach choices more consistent with their values and become active in the decision-making process. In terms of quality, evidence is also emerging regarding the impact SDM has on patient outcomes. Studies have shown that both health outcomes and treatment adherence have been improved for patients when they are engaged in the decision-making process. Finally, SDM can lower cost in some instances, particularly for preference-sensitive conditions that involve elective invasive procedures. When patients are more aware of the potential harms and benefits, they are more likely to select conservative treatment options. Another study showed that using SDM in 11 of those conditions or procedures would result in a national cost savings of $9.2 billion over 10 years. These include things such as prostate cancer screenings and medication treatment for hypertension. SDM can also help your organization meet national certification requirements. For instance, having processes in place for engaging patients in decision-making and using PCOR or other decision support resources is a key component of meeting the requirements of being recognized as a patient-centered medical home or being accredited as an accountable care organization. Once you have leadership buy-in, it's time to form an in-house implementation team that can develop a plan and put it into action. We already talked about the roles different team members may play in the shared decision-making process during Module 1. Let's look again at some possible team members you may want to invite on your implementation team. Clinical providers, health educators, administrators, and front desk staff. Here are some of the responsibilities of the implementation team: developing an implementation plan, reviewing patient support materials and selecting the ones most relevant for your practice, training providers and other staff members, providing continuing coaching. It takes a lot of practice and feedback to change one's comfortable behaviors. Finally, monitoring ongoing adoption. First, decide what health conditions you want to address through SDM. It's best to start small with just 1 or 2 conditions to give everyone an opportunity to become familiar with the process of shared decision-making rather than trying to do it all at once. Also, keep in mind that your approach may vary for different conditions. Once you have identified 1 or 2 conditions to start with, your implementation planning team needs to decide who is going to do what, decide who will be involved, and what their roles will be. Once you have identified the health conditions you plan to address initially, your teams need to identify evidence-based decision aid materials about those conditions. We discussed ARC's free resources in Module 2. Please revisit that recording if you need more information. Decide when the treatment process you want to introduce patients to decision aids. Will it be during the time of diagnosis, afterwards, part of an office visit? Whatever you decide, you need a standard operating procedure to use so that everyone involved knows what to expect and what they're doing. Time is often regarded as the biggest barrier to implementing SDM. So, understandably, staff may say that SDM is going to take too much time when they already have so much to do. It does take time to adjust to a new way of doing things, and change is always uncomfortable. But if done right, SDM should not take additional time than what clinicians are already doing. In fact, a number of studies show that clinicians can implement SDM without increasing the length of consultation time. Consider showing your colleagues the video we viewed with Dr. Miller and Rebecca in the beginning of this training to show them the difference. Training is a critical component of implementing SDM. You need to train all staff so that everyone knows what to expect. Training materials and tools from the SDM Toolkit on ARC's website can be found at www.ahrq.gov/shared decision-making. You should provide ongoing training and feedback to staff as they begin implementing SDM into their practice. A one-time training is not enough to institutionalize SDM into your practice. Providers and others need to try SDM with patients, then receive feedback on how they're doing and how they could improve. You might want to try shadowing trainees and offering feedback. Find what works for your organization. You can also take advantage of the Share Approach training support from ARC, including accredited web conferences and a learning network where you can connect with others on their experience with SDM. You can learn more about these activities on ARC's website, again at www.ahrq.gov/shared decision-making. Start off small and then implement SDM on a wider scale. Earlier, we talked about starting with just 1 or 2 conditions as you first implement SDM in your practice. This is the same idea. Some ideas for you are piloting your approach on just 1 unit or department after choosing 1 or 2 conditions to focus on. Gather all your resources. Test your approach to see if it's working. Revise it if there's room for improvements. Then scale it. Look at other departments and think about how you can expand your practice change. You will also need to consider creating a physical setting for SDM. Depending on how your practice decides to implement shared decision-making, you need to address practical and logistical issues in your SDM implementation plan. If you are planning on sharing decision aids with patients in your office, you need to create a comfortable environment for them to use. You also may need to create additional office or meeting space for health educators to meet with your patients. If you decide to use video or computer-based decision aids, Again, you might need to set up video players and headphones in a private area in your office for patients to use. You may also want to consider creating a library of decision aids and educational materials. Collect the ones pertinent to the health conditions that you plan to address and review them carefully with your providers to ensure that they are comfortable with the content of each resources before you adapt them. And don't forget AHRQ's growing library of free online resources that you learned about during this training. Streamline work processes whenever possible to make SDM workable in your environment. The more closely you tie SDM to standard work processes, the easier it is to implement SDM because it's no longer an add-on. It's just the way you do business. For example, you may find that diagnosis of a particular condition in a patient's EHR could initiate a process of sending the patient a decision aid as part of the SDM approach. Last but not least, you should evaluate the processes and the impact that your implementation efforts has done. Evaluation will allow you to fine-tune the practice of SDM in your unique practice setting. There is an emerging body of work centered in evaluating SDM, including validated instruments. But at first, you may want to adapt a more informal approach. Start by gathering feedback on what's working and what's not working, including sharing success stories. This is a good way to keep SDM at the forefront of everyone's mind until it becomes second nature. Let's go over some key takeaways from this module. Get leadership buy-in if you don't already have it. ARC is a great resource for you to gather your information before speaking with your colleagues and senior leaders so that they understand the benefits of SDM. Your implementation team can include a variety of team members from your organization, such as your clinical staff, administrators, or your front desk. Be sure to have 1 or 2 champions. Implementing SDM involves a number of activities. Start by developing an implementation plan. Who does what, when, and how? Choose an approach that works for your practice setting. Start small, then scale as you gain experience. Evaluate your efforts and share feedback with your entire team. Remember, change takes time. All pictures, videos, and educational materials used in this recording were derived from the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality's Share Approach Train the Trainer curriculum with permission from AHRQ. The original curriculum materials are available at www.ahrq.gov/share decision making.